afternoon and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host on Fight CPS with Bob Pace. Welcome, all of you. Boy, I had a hiccup today. I had moved my morning show that normally starts at 10:30 on Sunday to 12:30, but then it got set back to 12 o'clock. And I thought I'd make it back in time because I had a special outing with a family member, my son. And family does come first. And that's all my life has been, is about my family, taking care of my family. For a long time, I've been taking care of actually two families. My first family I lost, which was really sad. And I lost my firstborn at age 3. She's still around, but I remarried 32. Well, I married in 1996 or 95, and we've been together for 32 years. We met in 92, my wife and I. And I've had 3 children with her. I had 1 child with my first wife, my firstborn, and 3 biological with my second wife. Then my wife has 2 children, both of them born out of rape. She let one be adopted, and the other one she raised. Now, the one that was born out of rape didn't come back into our lives till he was 20 years old. And we've tried to establish a relationship with him. At first, it was really good, but lately, because of the CPS I was involved in, it's kind of destroyed them. The other one was a date rape that my wife went through, and the guy left her high and dry. And I met that daughter at age 5, a beautiful, beautiful daughter. And I called her my daughter. Yes, biologically, we weren't connected, but she's still my daughter. And she was with us to the age of 25, and then she went on her own, and she has a family. And in 2014, she stopped seeing us. It was sad. It was like, I don't know what was going on. My whole problem, and the reason why I'm talking about this right now, is I don't have a guest. And I don't know if people know that I'm on. This may be a recording only. I see 2 people. But she, like my other son, my other adopted son, I want to call him, son, my oldest son, he's 42 now. I met him at 20. So for 22 years, I've known him. Lately, he's been distant. His brother told my wife to take a hike, and he has children, but he's never expressed his interest in seeing my wife's grandchildren or keep in touch. So I don't know what's happened, but it all roots around CPS. There's something about the stigma of CPS, and I really want to relate that to stigma. The last so many days, I've heard some heart-wrenching stories. Yesterday, it was about a 38-year-old North Korean man who came to this country through adoption in the Holt Adoption Company. That's a Korean children with U.S. people. And there was a heavy influx of adoption children in the 70s to the 90s. And anyway, he came over here to Portland, Oregon, and his first family that adopted him were very abusive to him. So he started, which a lot of foster kids do in adoption, and so adopted kids do, is children are being abused. They're also being neglected. And there's an agency, which is social services, that's supposed to be the watchdog. It's a federal agency. But the branch of social services, and maybe in the social service, something's happened to them. Because I've gone back to the Children Aid Society, which is still around today, that started in 1853, taking care of our children. CPS started in the 60s, was the second round, and then they had an act change in 74. But anyway, I apologize for not being on at 12:30 as I was hoping to be. But my time with my son was really important, and through no fault of our own, we had transportation issues. And so here it is at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time is my show. I have another show at 6 o'clock this evening Pacific Standard Time. So that's about, 4 hours away. So you get to hear me again. But if anybody was here at 10:30 or at 12 o'clock or 12:30, I apologize for not being around. But I am here, and you can interact with this show. You can call in right now at 563-999-3480. And you can be a guest on my show. I'd love to hear your story. I had some remarkable last couple of days. I learned about medical trafficking. Medical trafficking. There's child trafficking, there's CPS trafficking. The list goes on and on. And I know the experience you're going through because I have really been suffering it. I didn't realize some of the bad things that CPS did to me 14 years now. I've been fighting them and trying to turn my life around. Now, if you can't talk on the show or you don't want to, that's fine. But if you want to talk a later date, you can email my producer, Grace. She's off on Sundays. But you can email her and tell her you want to be on my morning show or evening show, Monday show, Saturday show, Wednesday show. You pick it. There's 14 shows a week, 2 shows a day. And I'd love to have you on the show to talk about your case, to help you. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a well-educated man. I have a bachelor's of science degree and a teaching credential in secondary education. So I thought I'm pretty smart, but when CPS invaded my life, I guess I wasn't. And I did some of the same things you did. The common thing you and I have is I was not working. I had lost my job through no fault of my own at age 60. It was a struggle getting a job. And I had a job not too long ago. But out of the blue, they said, we have no more work for you. We have to let you go. So I've been unemployed for a year now. And I'm looking again. And I'm trying to get a career job again because I need to take care of my family. This is what's so important to all you that call in, is family. Because you would not be calling in or talking about your case unless you loved your family. And the best family for biological kids are a mother and father. It's proven studies that have done that. They are the best. They are the best. And I want you all to know that. Also, I want to give many thanks to Mr. Davis, who produces this show. He is a trial family law attorney, and he's dedicated to helping families get their kids back. He's fought CPS longer than I've known him. I mean, I've only known him, 14 years, but he's been doing it for a long time. He's very professional, and he has a law firm, Vincent W. Davis and Associates, that produces the show. He has a whole series of attorneys that help you in immigration matters. They'll help you in legal matters, divorce court, family court, juvenile court, your workplace, anything to do with criminal law. He is an attorney for that. The area that we're in here is family law, dependency court, juvenile. You're dealing with kids under the age of 18 and mothers and fathers that may have had some hiccups or made some bad choices, and they got themselves messed up with an agency. I keep trying to tell you what this agency's like. If you know the story of Alice in Wonderland, she falls in a rabbit hole, and she goes through a series of doors and places that are very confusing to her. She doesn't know what's up or down or right or left. And that's what CPS does to you. They're a parasite. They feed on you. They know all about you before they even contact you. That's their MO. They look for people that are homeless. They look for people that are low income. They look for people that are not well educated. And they take advantage of these people. Why? People ask me that all the time. Why? It's something called money and greed. CPS is corrupt when it goes to money for our children. And I'll talk about it in a little bit. I want to go back to Mr. Davis, because if you want help, please call him at 888-888-6582. Also, I have a rule number one that you need an attorney to fight this. I didn't have an attorney. It was terrible on my part. It was terrible. I tried to fight it on my own for a year and a half. CPS came knocking on my door in 2010, soon after I lost my job. And I did not know that the CPS allegations that were called on were by my family, my in-laws. I've known for a long time. I've known for 32 years that they were very, abuse of my wife. She didn't know it until recently when we started talking about abuse and neglect. And it was horrible for her. It was really horrible. And again, I'll talk about that subject. What I want to tell you all is that my rule number one is you find an attorney because that's the only person that can help you out. And I'm not talking about a public defender or the court appointed attorney. That's only because of your constitutional rights. Anytime your legal matters, you need a court appointed attorney. The sad part about that kind of attorney is that they only give it to you the last minute. They carry a caseload of 20 or more clients. So they don't have time for your case. And they're going to go the easy way out. They're friends of the kangaroo court. And the reason why I call it a kangaroo court, because you got a judge in my case that had no background in family law. His background was collision claims with cars and car accidents. That's who's deciding the life of my family children. We had a perfect functional family. We were down in hard times, yes. But the kids were loved. The kids are doing well in school. They're clean and bathed. They're well fed. And our outings weren't like they used to be, but we still did outings. We're still involved in Boy Scouts. We kind of let some of the things like AYSO go because of the money part, but we were doing okay. But apparently my wife's family members, especially my mother-in-law and her sister, who worked for social services, who came up with all these allegations that weren't true. Ever since I met my second wife at the age of, I can't remember how old I was then, but it's 32 years ago. 32 from 74 is 41. So 41, I met my second wife, and I was on the rebound. And she was a single parent with a child that she was trying to raise, and she was in her late 20s, still living at home with her abusive parents. And we started a telephone relationship, and it blossomed into her. She wanted to come out and meet me. So she flew her and her daughter out to meet me. I paid for the airfare. I had a home because my first wife, left the home. And in the settlement, I gave my other home in Hawaii for her so I could keep the home in California so that my daughter, my firstborn, had a home to come home to. We weren't involved in the CPS then. We should have maybe been. I don't know. And I did. The marriage thing was stupid. I hired the wrong attorney. It was all emotional. I hired an attorney that had nothing to do with children. I did not hire a dependency law attorney or a family law attorney. I'm sorry, it's a family law attorney. I hired an attorney that knew maybe about divorce, but it was bad news. I went on the recommendation of a friend, and then I got rid of him and got another attorney, and it got worse. And I'm paying big bucks. I'm paying, at that time, $300 an hour. So I had a job. I've always had a job. I had a home, and I guess that's why my first wife came out. But little did I know that her family is going to destroy our family. And I'm a survivor, like you all are out there. And I've had a lot of great people that come on this show. A lot of great people. And anyway, I met Mr. Davis after a year and a half of trying to settle my case. And you need to make a list of 10 attorneys that are family law attorneys. From that list, you need to call 5 of them that deal with that deal with child protection agencies That's what you need. And from that list of 5, you need to find out who might be best qualified and who has won cases and give references and that can afford your budget. Hiring attorneys is expensive. They're all over the place. Some may want a 5,000 retainer, some are 10, some are 15, some are 20. I don't know. It can go up and up and up. Mr. Davis is reasonable. You need to talk to him about the retainer. He bases on the complexity of the case, how long the case is going on, and how far he has to go to. He'll fight in Southern California where his office is, but he'll go to Northern California. He'll go out of state. He goes to Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. So he does fight cases out of state. And he has a reputation that he's a fighter against CPS. You see, CPS is corrupt. There's a lot of people are corrupt. The police, the child protection services, even our government. Some of our government is corrupt. And it's sad. Because we need business people running our government. We don't need politicians. Politicians are stroked by people giving money for their cause. And they're corrupt. Some of them have bad values. Some of them are wooed and do strange things. We're all human, by the way. And I know we all believe. I believe in God. That's one thing that's really important. God's in my life. And thank God I had God in my life. But he's helped me through this. And through my son, who's now 24, he's brought me to a church that has helped him. He kind of was raised as a Catholic, and my wife is a Catholic. And so they say that only Catholics are Christians, which I don't believe. I think anybody that believes in Jesus Christ is. I don't want to get into politics or religion. It's very simple for me. It's just you believe in God, you believe in the Bible. I mean, that's all there is to it. The Bible tells you so much and teaches you so much. And we're on a week after the resurrection of Jesus Christ. There's 40 days he came back. And, you just got to have faith. And faith will keep you strong, will help you with CPS. But anyway, you want to pick an attorney that can help you, because if you don't, then it's like a doctor. It's like you do an open heart surgery with a layman, or yourself doing open heart surgery. You get a professional doctor to do it. One that's gone to medical school, that did an internship, and has been mentoring another doctor so that he's well enough that he can go into your body cavity and replace a heart or a valve or do something in there. The same thing is true about child protection services. Now, it may have different names in different states. It's all the same thing. It's a group of social workers that are supposed to protect our children from neglect, abuse, and also do family reunification. It seems like I've talked to over a couple hundred people now so far, the last couple of months, from all parts of the country. And the common thing they have in there is right away they have a case open and their child is taken because they think the child's in imminent danger. And they destroy a family. They destroyed me and my family. I lost my home. I had a beautiful home. I worked 40 years for that home. Close to the beach, had a rock pool, English garden, tropical garden in the back, and a dog run on the side, and 3-car garage, 4 bedrooms. It was really nice. But after 5 years of hassling me, they came into the house when I was going through the death of my mom and dad, and I had taken their belongings to disseminate them to relatives because I didn't have money to put it in storage. And because I had this excess belongings, and they walked through the house with their combat boots, and they're very much intimidating. They were trying to find something wrong. When I came to my home, I was tricked to come in and open my home. 5 firemen were there, 2 code enforcement, 3 social workers, 2 uniformed policemen, and a detective that did the tricking. And when they went through my place, I mean, they searched everything. I mean, they didn't find anything, The firemen were sitting there measuring the distance of the smoke alarm, making sure they're operational. The code enforcement was seeing the backyard pool had a lock on the back door and had a gate around it, which all those things it did. Everything was up to code. Everything was up there. There's only two things they found wrong, or three things I mentioned. Code enforcement said my foliage was too heavy, and I couldn't afford a landscaper or people that take care of your yards every week that I used to. So I had to do it myself. And then the gate was loose, and he said you need some nuts and bolts. That was it that code enforcement found. The firemen found nothing. And the detective agreed with the social worker that we were neglecting our children because of the boxes and the furniture stacked. Now, they weren't in the children's bedroom. The children's bedroom were clean, spotless, and the children were always taken to school, never missing school. We were very involved in school, and they had good grades. I mean, they all were in STEM classes, meaning they're taking a science class, a technology class, an engineering class, and a math class. Because my two boys, now see, I have three young children born with my second wife. And they were ages 9, 12, and 15 when they were taken, abducted from us. They were trafficking from us. In Orange County, Social Services Child Protection Agency does trafficking, which is illegal. And the way they do it is they are so powerful, and they bring the police and try to intimidate you before you know all the rules and stuff. They get in your home and they look around, they look up to set you up, because that's why my rule number 3 is you never let them in the home. And I'll talk about that. But it's really, 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 really hard, because what I should have done, that's why I said I have to hire an attorney, because you need someone that can go in this entanglement of Nowheresville. They have no regard for elder people. I was 65 at the time when they came into my home. So I was considered an elderly person. You're a senior at 55, you're elderly at 65. At age 74, I think you're too old to work. I mean, you're considered too old. I guess they want you to put you out the casters. But hell, Aristotle was, in his 80s, still preaching and still doing good things. Old people are wise. They're experienced. They know a lot. They might not physically strong, but I still am. I still act half my age. I still work out. I try to keep myself healthy. Today was a testament to how healthy I was. I walked 10 miles today because of what happened with my transportation. That's why I'm a little bit late, starting here at 2 o'clock instead of at 12 or 12:30 as I thought my time was. But I'm glad that I do have people listening. I appreciate the thumbs up. And I hope that someone out there will text me a message. You can make comments all you want. All I need is your name and the city and state. And if you're from another country, I know that this is worldwide, this Facebook. But I've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Ghana, and Mexico text in. They have the same problem you all do: a corrupt child protection services. Where are the child protection services when you really need them for serious cases? There's a little girl in Columbus, Ohio, that her mother abandoned her. She was 10 months old, and she's left alone in a bouncy chair, where she died of starvation and died of hydration. And she was found in a pool of maggots in her diaper with E. coli in her bloodstream. Head hanging over. So sad, that child. Just like the Korean boy, I started off talking about that story. There's a lot of stories here that I've heard, and a lot of people that have talked about their cases. There's a man who lost his wife who's sitting in Alaska in a tent trying to get his children back. There's so many people. I did hear from someone the other day because of my podcast. They used some of the things, they got their kids back. They wanted to call me that in El Paso, Texas, they got their kids back. That was so great to hear that I'm able to help someone or touch someone. I know some of you have heard my podcast over and over and over and over. It may get boring, but I do have interesting cases. I do talk about topics, all kinds of topics. I talked about ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. I talked about the motion for 388. I talk about ICPC, the placement of children in other states. I talk about our codes, our health and welfare codes, the 300B. There's a lot of things. I have a lot of tabs open that I can talk about. I only have an hour, so I do try to get people to call in or text in. I love to have it. That's ways you can interact. And as I say, you need to get an attorney, and I did in a year and a half, and I got Mr. Davis. And I thank for him. Now, when you call in at 888-888-6582, make sure you tell the office that Bob Pace sent you and that you want a consultation for 30 minutes with Mr. Davis. He will help you. It's only $49.99, $50. And he'll talk to you about strategies of how to fight CPS and get your kids back, how to fight child protection services and get your kids back. Now, I have a person came in called Rebecca Christea. I see you. Thank you. Does anyone know if CPS leaves a child with a non-offending parent after giving their home is fit? Yes, they're supposed to, Rebecca. They're supposed to give they sometimes will dump the kids on the bad parent. Kids need both parents. Rebecca, I don't see what city or state you're from. If you could list me this home or state, that'd be great. So I'm going to put this in right now. And she asked a question that the non-offending parent offered. Yes, non-defending parents, the kids can be put in one or the other. Sometimes the kids are mistakenly put in the predator home, which is sad. She further says, and the only other parent committed an act of neglect of the child abused by having second DWI with child in the car with a child on a parent's lap and properly restraining. Okay. That is neglect. And you're right. But that is a correctable neglect. Not having a car seat for children does endanger the child. And that is neglect. And the police will write a ticket and CPS will investigate it. And then you're going to, and I guess that's what happened, but you didn't do anything. And so you should be allowed to have still kids at home. And that offending parent may have to move out and have to do corrective measures like take parenting classes. It's not the end of the world. Now, Rebecca, if you want to call in and talk more about your case, I'd love to hear from you. It's 563-399-38. Whoops, the wrong number. I'm so sorry. I thought that was my number. I gave you the wrong number. My number is 626-698-0990. And I'm sorry I had the wrong number out there. That's my calling number, 626-698-0990. So, Rebecca, if you want to call, please do. And yes, that parent had the child improper restraint. He'll get a traffic ticket for that. Plus, CPS will scold him. But it should not be something that should be family reunification. The children, he may not be with the children, is what may happen. That's a hard one because I don't know what city and state you're at, so I couldn't tell you how that child protection services is. And that's something that can be resolved. It's not the end of the world. It's not like these kids, as I told earlier, that the parent walked away and left a child, an infant, for 12 days. Of course, she died. I mean, it was sad. And where was the CPS worker for 12 days? Because the mother came back and saw the child dead, and she called in and said, "My child's dead. Why?" Now, maybe that person has mental health problems. I don't know. I have not checked to see what the latest is. But there's horrific stories. You, Rebecca, told me about not having a child properly restrained. Now think of the children that are killed with parents having their children on their lap. That's wrong. That is really, really wrong. Because they can be killed because the car stops. Where's the child going to go? Forward. Going to hit the head on the glass, the windshield, and hit the dashboard. If the car is involved in an accident, the car they hit may be in their front lap, and the child will be dead. So you need to restrain your children properly. That's something called parenting. Now, I know we're not born with a book on parenting or a manual of how to operate your life, but there are parenting classes that a lot of parents should take. Now, in schools, in high schools, they are teaching some of those things because kids are having children early on. But the hospitals you have your child at give classes and they tell you things like that, they'll show you what proper restraint you should have for your kids. Anyway, Rebecca, I don't know what city and state you're in. It'd be nice if you kind of tell us. That'd be great. No problem if you don't. Anybody else that's listening, please call in at 626-698-0990. Now, earlier I told you about Rule 1, Mr. Davis, and I want to thank him again for producing this show. And if any need help, please call him. It's 888-888-6582. Now, CPS is not transparent. They make gobs of money. That's why they take their children into custody. And when they search your home or come to your home, you do not have to let them in. Now, rule number 3 I have is you don't allow police or social workers in your home without you giving them permission. Now, they can enter a home if the child's underneath ongoing threat or imminent danger, such as there's a shooting going on, or a fight between adults, or a fight between the kids. They will go in the home. But they have to be in imminent danger before you can allow them in the home and before they can take the children from you. A thing called imminent danger, meaning that their life is being threatened. My case of neglect with the boxes and the furniture is not life-threatening. My kids should never been taken from school. They were in school at the time, except my young son that I picked up. But it really was hard. It was really, really, really hard. Going back to that Korean boy I talked about, he grew up in abusive families that took advantage of him. And then he was convicted of a robbery where he went back to one of his families to get his personal belongings. And he illegally went in the home, and the weird family prosecuted him. And because they found out that he's an illegal alien, you probably said, well, why had 3? He was supposed to be made a U.S. citizen. And our laws are sometimes so stupid the way they're carried out. There's nobody that has common sense with our laws sometimes. And when ICE was involved, ICE says if you have a person that's committed a crime, they're immediately deported. So he's 38 years old. So for 35 years, he's lived in the country. He had a family. He has two younger children. He had a business and a job. But they deported him, and no one would step in to help. He was abused in the foster care families. He was abused. CPS did not protect him. Where was CPS when he was 3? CPS is chasing, they're ambulance chasers, is what they are. That's where they chase something that's really, I guess, exciting to them or whatever the case be. But they're not out there protecting our children. Um, so this Korean man went back to Korea, lived there for a while. He missed his family so bad he moved to Mexico. And he's still trying to become pardoned so he'd be in the United States with his family. I think it's a crying shame that there's a father who's abused in foster care, can't be with his family, who had a business and a job in the United States and had a home. And the only thing he did was he tried to get the things that belonged to him. He got off on the wrong track, got in trouble with the law, but he served his time. And all they did is deport him. That's wrong. These rules are supposed to help and protect, but not take advantage of. And that's what CPS does. They take advantage of things. And their goal is for the money. Adoption agencies do adoption because of the money. CPS does it because of the money. You know, the money is needed to help children with immediate expenses and those things. But when you get $20,000 per child per month in child protection services, that's excessive. One person on the show worked as a cashier at those cash places where you cash your check. And she said she saw foster care checks, and one was like $14,000 for 1 month. $14,000 to a foster care parent. They'll raise a child. I'm taking care of a family of 4 on $140 a week on food, and food has gone up, and gas has gone up. Gas a month ago was $3.75. Now it's $4.75. It's gone over $1, and it still keeps going up. Milk that was at $2.65 is at $4.55. Now, granted, I live in one of the expensive places to live in, so that's what you get. But it's not my fault. I've always lived at the beach, always loved the beach. And this place in California is really nice to be at. But this Korean man now is Mexico trying to get his way in. I'm going to read his story, keep track of him. But where was CPS when he's growing up and being abused? You know, it's really sad. It is so sad for the various people and stuff. Now I have I started on the rule number 3. I didn't get quite finish it, but besides not in your home, you don't want to talk to social workers or police. They'll use what you say against you. So the answers should be yes, no kind of answers. Do not tell them more than they ask. And on top of that, be prepared to write down notes about what transpired and so forth, because you need that later. They're very, very evil, and they'll trick you to try to get in your home. They'll say, oh, I got the police here, and you need to open your home. No, you don't have to open your home to anybody. It's your castle. If there's imminent danger going on, then they'll enter your home. If there's ongoing issues. Again, I say hello to Rebecca. Thank you so much for your text messages. I don't know what city or state you're from, but you're somewhere in the United States or another country. It's fine. But rule number 3 is to say nobody enters your home, including the police. And it also goes to don't let them in your hospital room. If you're at a hospital, social workers are now starting to go in. It's called medical um, trafficking. Medical trafficking. They're taking children away by CPS get involved. That they're sending authorities about medical issues, medical problems. If I look a little red in the face as I was out in the sun for a good hour on that walk, that 10 or 15-mile walk, wow. But there's always a reason for anything, you know. It's hard when you're reaching out and telling these people. It's so hard when you reach out and you tell these people that you trust, these government individuals, they come to your home and they try to make it sound, or they come to your birthing room and they take away your child. They take away your child that you just gave birth to without a warrant. They'll come marching with the police. You tell the doctor to tell those people to wait in the lobby. But you're not supposed to have visitors in your room. It's your sanctuary. Unless they have a court order, and that sadly they're getting these warrants, which are not well put up. They have to be really a legal document signed by a judge, a wet signature, with very specific information. Who they're supposed to investigate, the time, the date, and what the allegations are. It's got to be on that warrant. Otherwise, you don't give them up your children. If they arrest you, there's false arrest, and you have a civil lawsuit against the police station. I know it's hard with police. It really is. And same with social workers. Because I believed in so much. When I was fighting CPS, I had to deal with the director, the top dog of the agency, because I went to the top, who worked out of a building that looked like the Taj Mahal of India. And on top of that, it was so green, it also looked like the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. It was gaudy. It was unnecessary artwork, unnecessary architectural, and they're supposed to be taking children. You wonder where the money goes. The money is going to them. My social worker was very young and very naive. She has no college background, no classes in social work. She didn't have, she wasn't a doctor. And here she is prescribing medicine. And here she is evaluating parents and children if they have a mental disorder. She's not a doctor, but she was doing that. She's also had her family in hostage. And all she would show me or tell me, look at my Gucci purse. Look at look at my BMW car, or look at my clothes, my eyelashes, my makeup. It's always about that. She got so many bonuses, and that's all the social workers work for, is these bonuses. These bonuses. So I'm telling you that you need to be patient. You need to, study and learn and do as much as you can. Google and get an attorney. You need that. You can't do open heart surgery without a doctor, and you can't do CPS without an attorney. You'll be destroyed. I was. It took me a year and a half till I hired Mr. Davis, and I'm glad I did. If I probably hired him in the beginning, I probably wouldn't have lost my daughter. And that's the tragic thing. A lot of you are losing family members, and it's wrong. It is wrong. There's special need kids that are well taken care of by the parents, and they're being taken away from them. Parents are still fighting their kids that are in their 20s, trying to get them and save them. So you have a very corrupt system. And it's been so in the history of time. They gave a lot of money. The Rockefellers, the people that have lots of money gave lots of money. But then greed takes over and people are influenced by greed. People are influenced by greed. Now, things like that rule number 3 I was talking about coming to your home, you can fix that pretty easy by diffusing them. If they come to your door, don't answer it. You don't have to talk to them. If you do talk to them outside. And when you do talk to them, they say they want to go inside, you tell them, I need to talk to my attorney first. That is your right. They can't, unless they have a warrant, they can't go in your home. And you just tell them to diffuse it that I need to talk to my attorney, I'll get back to you. What is your business card? What's your name and phone number? But if you tell them you may not have an attorney, but at least you can stall them a little bit. They don't know if you don't have an attorney. In fact, they sometimes back off. They sometimes back off. But long as you tell them that is great, there's no problem. Now I have rule number 2. I took them out of sequence, and maybe that was wrong. But I have rule number 2. Try to make sure my phone calls were coming through because I've had no calls again. You can call in at 626-698-0990. And I'll put you live on the show. I know Rebecca said some comments, and I appreciate them. I don't know where she's from, but she had a situation where she was asking, can one parent be offered the child being with them and not with the offending parent, the predator, the bad parent. Anyway, rule number 2 is you got to get a notebook, and you got to keep track of all the incidents. Anything related to your case should be in that notebook, and do it in range of dates. Your first date and time be the first entry, and then right after that, you want to add their names of the incident, who was involved in the incident, and then the second line is description of the incident, and then the third line is the answer. And you may not get the answer right away, and then you want to skip a couple lines and do the second incident. Same thing for the third incident, the fourth, and so forth. But that book should always be with you. That you're trying to fight, and you need to refer back to your notebook. You have to refer back to your notebook. So that's important. So I've told you 3 rules in this show. And the remainder of the times, I want to talk about certain events, certain incidents that may help you. Now, I mentioned about the Korean man. And the South Korean court orders the agency, which is the Holt adoption agency, to compensate the adoption over his mishandling of adoption. Yes, the Korean man. But that's still resolving some issues there. And you may want to look up the story. It's Adam Krasper. And he has accused the South Korean government, which he says created an aggressive, profit-driven adoption industry that carelessly removed thousands of children from their families during child export frenzy in the 1970s and 80s. But it's really sad, and I'd like to follow that story there. So there's actually a YouTube video or thing called the Blue Bayou, and it was made without the Koreans' permission, and so there's a lot of controversy about it. But it's something you should see. Now, one thing that's come up is a child can be taken out if they're immediate danger order. It has to be set that way. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the whole flow. There's a flow chart that's really good about juvenile dependency. It starts off with the allegations are made. Some are by professional, some are made by lay people. The lay people tendency to be retaliation for things that maybe a neighbor's done or a family member's done, and they want to get back at them. So they're not true allegations. Professionals are usually more true because they're made by professionals or required by law. Now, when an allegation is made, they got 24 hours to investigate it. And when they investigate it, they're going to be determined whether the child is in protective custody or whether the child is not in custody. Then after the child is taken, that's when the clock starts ticking as far as the money. They start collecting money right away, big lots of money. And they will charge what's called a dependency petition. You look underneath Welfare Act of 300, and I'll tell you further details. Then after the petition is filed, they have what's called a jurisdictional hearing within 30 days, called a detention initial hearing. That's Family Code 319. Then after that, they have what's called a judicial hearing and a reposition hearing. So there is the dependency petition filed, the detention hearing, jurisdiction trial, and then there's deposition hearing. That's where the child may be done a legal guardian, or the child declared a dependent, or it's not established. So it's a really complex process. Now, there's a thing called the family safety meeting. That's where you meet with a social worker and determine what's the best place for your kids to stay at. Should they, stay at a relative, which is usually better than maybe a stranger or something like that. You certainly don't want them in the as adoptive parents because they've been really bad and mean. So that flow chart is something that you should look up and they really be helpful out there. Now, I mentioned earlier about 388 motion. That's a special motion. Attorneys should do it because you have to serve all parties in the case. The children have attorneys, parents have attorneys, social workers have attorneys. So you got to serve notice on them all. But what it is, it's a way to modify or change a juvenile court judgment, and they're filed with the court when there's a change of circumstances or new evidence. So if you complete your program, then it's time to file that form because you need to have your children back. And they have to have a hearing right away within, let's see, forgot already. Gee, I thought I knew, but I didn't. 30 days. I just do remember it now. 30 days of filing, they should meet with the judge. And that's where you can say, Judge, I completed this and this and that and so forth. Your attorney should know about that, even the public defenders, but they probably won't. So you got to do it yourself. So keep in mind the 388, it may not be called 388. It's the motion to change, modify, or set aside any previous court in your case. And the way they talk about CPS, they talk about 3 eras. The second area spans from 1875 to 1962. And the third area, the modern one, is beginning in 62 to now. Now, I don't know if they meant the first one happened in 1853. But it's been going a long time, and there have been definitely problems with it. Now, there's a new thing called medical kidnapping. I don't know if it's new. It's where you have a disagreement with a doctor. They call CPS, or CPS who works in the hospital comes in and immediately takes your children away because you disagree. And there's an example where a 13-year-old was getting treatment for cancer and the chemotherapy wasn't working out. So her mother said she wanted to try an alternative method, and the doctors called CPS and they took her children away. It was so sad what they can do. The power of CPS amazes me every day. So be careful of that, where they're taking children from the hospital just because you want to go and have a child, protected. Now, if you have problems with anything with the welfare, the County Child Welfare Service Agency, you need to go online, look it up. Go to the Department of Social Services, and you want to go to the part that deals with the Children's Services and Operation Bureau. Each state has a Department of Social Service. Within that, you want to learn more about, they talk about how to report child abuse or neglect. They talk about visitation areas in custody. Now, if you have a problem with child custody and visitation issues, you need to talk to the family court and the child custody evaluators and family court mediators are available to provide dispute. They will help you. You just go www.court. and your 2-letter state.gov. They even talk about child support issues. And they have problems. You want to report foster, they have rights there. You go to the Office of the Foster Case Ombuds person. Now, they have ombuds persons and CASA persons. CASAs are court appointed, and ombuds person is supposed to be a neutral party. You got to be careful of them because they will talk to social services. If you want to report a conduct against a social worker, you want to go to the CWA agency for resolution. And that is, you go look at the County Welfare Directory Association. You may complain about law enforcement officers. You can lodge them with the county's district attorney's office. And you want to make complaints about California judges for misconduct or inappropriate. You also can complain about the judges or the misconduct. And this being election year, you want to make sure you vote for judges. They should be experienced in family law. And if you want to make an objection to them, you want to write to the State Commission of Judicial Performance. Every state has them. And they will investigate it. Now, I mentioned earlier the ICPC, and that was nothing more than agreement among states. Now, I've reached my time now. I've been talking for over an hour. And again, I want to thank you all for listening. I thank you for the thumbs up. Even my attorney, Mr. Davis, gave a thumbs up here. So I must be doing something right. He still wants me. So, without further say, I want you to keep trying for your kids. Do not forget that God loves you and He'll protect you if you pray to Him. You will get your children back. It just takes time. And I hate to say it takes money and a good attorney. So I'll see you tonight. We're on an hour early because there's a show Mr. Davis wants to do at 7. So I'm on at 6 o'clock. And I look forward to seeing you and talk to you. God bless you. And hang in there. And I'll see you tonight. This is Bob Pace signing off.